Before the Raiders 100% get their focus on the Denver Broncos in Thursday Night Football, they have to consider the trade deadline coming up at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 Pacific, this afternoon. Will they make a trade? Will they not make a trade? And what all could go into consideration? That plus more on Tuesday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for November 4th, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. We definitely appreciate you. If you're catching the show wherever you find your favorite podcast, or you're checking us out by way of the YouTube page, you know we appreciate both. The show grows each and every day because of your support and the great job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making sure we look good and sound good. So we shout him out. We appreciate him. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And if you want to be a part of the show, as many of you do, we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line for you at 707-654-4693. We'll close out the show today. Calls and texts. That'll come up with segment number 3. A lot of good feedback. Try to get as much of that in as possible. As well, it's a short week getting ready for the Denver Broncos coming up on Thursday Night Football, kicking off Week 10. So that'll be segment number 3. Segment number 2, we'll talk about what the Raiders need to continue to do. I touched on it and talked about it a little bit on Monday's show, how I was talking about what they still need to add to this team, where they are as far as the building process. And Kirk Morrison, longtime NFL linebacker, Raider linebacker, and currently part of the Raider broadcast alongside Jason Horowitz, had some really good thoughts and really broke it down so you can understand, so everyone can understand what he's talking about when it comes to what the Raiders need to do as an organization. You'll hear that, and we'll talk about it in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, news and notes of the day, preparing for Thursday Night Football, the Denver Broncos, and, of course, the trade deadline. We'll get into that after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So, off top, for the first time this year, the Raiders put out an injury report on Monday, right? Because they have a game on Thursday. So, Monday night, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we'll get an injury report. I'll update it here on the show. And then, of course, Thursday night, before, 90 minutes before kickoff, we'll find out who the inactives are. Now, the Raiders conducted a walkthrough on Monday, right? They didn't have a practice, and the Broncos did the same thing. They had a walkthrough as well, or actually their injury report is really an estimate. But the Raiders did a walkthrough. So the guys that showed up on the injury report: defensive tackle Thomas Booker, oblique injury; Brock Bowers, toe injury; safety Lonnie Johnson, fibula injury; Aiden O'Connell, right wrist injury; and Isaiah Pola-Mao, hip injury. All full participants on Monday. I think Lonnie Johnson is going to be activated. I'm not 100% sure, but that's something Pete Carroll alluded to last week, that they probably wouldn't have him for the Jaguars game, but more likely the Denver game. So that's coming up on Thursday, so pay attention to that. Would not be shocked or surprised to hear Lonnie Johnson's been activated to the 53-man roster and be available to go coming up on Thursday. Aiden O'Connell, he has to be activated as well. His 21-day window has been open just like Lonnie Johnson's. I don't know when they'll activate him. Very well could be the same time as Lonnie Johnson, or they could wait a little bit longer if they don't have a rush to get him back out there. So definitely something to pay attention to. But as far as the 5 guys that are on the injury report, to know that they were all full participants on Monday is a good thing, meaning the Raiders are pretty healthy getting ready for Thursday, and you can anticipate them not really practicing too much. On a short week, they don't really do that. As far as the Denver Broncos, they definitely have a lot more injuries, and again, remember, it was just an estimate. Pat Surtain with the pec injury did not participate. He's not going to play on Thursday. Riley Moss, ankle, same thing. Marvin Mims, concussion, DNP. PJ Locke with their neck injury, DNP. Brandon Jones, foot injury, DNP. JT Gray, hamstring, DNP. Nate Atkins, knee, DNP. So that's a tight end, DB, a couple safeties, a wide receiver, and a couple cornerbacks, all DNP. For the Denver Broncos, limited defensive tackle DJ Jones with a knee injury, defensive lineman John Franklin Myers with a shoulder injury, and outside linebacker Jonathan Cooper with a thumb injury. All those were limited, but again, that was just an estimate. So again, I'll update you on the injury report coming up later on this afternoon and also on Wednesday in preparation for Thursday. Now, I did want to talk about the trade deadline. It is today. There's been a lot of speculation. Obviously, there's been conversation around Max Crosby. I feel like that's pretty much a closed case, right? That's not going to happen. I think that the Raiders have already nipped that in the bud, so don't have to worry about him being on the move. But that doesn't mean others won't be on the move by 1 p.m. to Pacific time and 4 p.m. Eastern time. Obviously, the name that's been talked about the most has been wide receiver Jacoby Myers. So Jeremy Fowler from ESPN NFL Insider was on my radio show on Friday talking about some potential trades that could happen. And so the first one I asked him about was obviously Jacoby Myers. Does he think he will get traded by the deadline or he won't get traded by the deadline? Here's Jeremy Fowler.
I kind of was going into this week with a 50-50 proposition on that. I tend to think that there's a better chance he's not traded at this point. Now, it's going to depend on the offer. Pittsburgh, we know, is looking for receiver help. There will be others. So if they get a decent return for him, the problem is I don't think you're going to get like a third-round pick for him. It's going to be a day 3 pick. And then, is that really enough for GM John Spytek and head coach Pete Carroll to deem it worthwhile? I don't think they're punting on the season yet. I just get the sense the Raiders all along were going to kind of play this year out steadily, see where they are, and then make any big decisions in the offseason. I just don't think they were going to be in fire sale mode at this point. Now, a lot can change in the next 96 hours, and we'll see. I mean, I still think there was a good chance of it. I shouldn't say good, but I think there was a chance it could happen. I felt that all along. In my talks with teams today, I don't sense a lot of momentum there at the moment. That's all.
So at one point he felt pretty positive that he would, but he wasn't, 100% sure. And you see, the hesitation or hear the hesitation in his voice from my radio show. Again, that was on Friday. So they hadn't played the game against Jacksonville on Sunday, but it didn't sound like he was as confident that Jacoby Myers would be on the move. Now, one scenario, and I've talked about it here on the show before, is the compensatory pick and the formula, right? Because at one point it was like, well, the Raiders, they could just hold on to Jacoby Myers, let him walk in free agency, and then they can get a comp pick for him. Well, it's not that easy because of the comp pick formula. So for any that don't know, to qualify for a comp pick, teams must end up with more qualifying free agents lost than gained in a particular year. So the Raiders have a ton of free agency salary cap space for 2026. Matter of fact, they're the second highest in the league. So my anticipation and many's anticipation are they're going to spend a lot of money. So if they spend a lot of money and don't lose a lot of free agents, they're not going to get a comp pick. So this is what it is. Teams are awarded comp draft picks between rounds 3 and 7 of the draft based upon a league formula that takes into account a player's average salary per year, snap count, and postseason awards. While there's an expected level of compensation for a player based on the amount he is signed for, his playing time or lack thereof in the upcoming season could alter the expectation. So there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just, you lost a free agent, you're going to get a comp pick. That's not how it works. So the other question that I asked Jeremy Fowler that obviously pertains to the silver and black is the comp pick formula, how that could affect the Raiders' decision on trading Jacoby or not.
Yeah, it's certainly a factor that most teams think through, especially if you have a guy going into a contract year, because a lot of times those guys either want to be traded or they're not in the long-term plan, so therefore they're being shopped or there's interest from other teams. And you got to weigh, okay, how much do we plan to spend in March on free agents versus what we're letting out the door? So if a team has 3 really good free agents that could sign for big money and you let all 3 go and they sign big deals elsewhere, then you're in good standing in the comp pick formula if you didn't spend too much. So even deep into late March and April and May in the doldrums of free agency, teams are a lot of times trying to get free agents for a certain amount of money, like $1.48 million. So they don't go, it doesn't affect the comp pick formula. They're real specific about that. So it's definitely a factor because to get a third-round pick like that, you can get more that way than you can in a trade right now, Mm-hmm. So it's enticing, and it's definitely a factor.
So you hear Jeremy Fowler from ESPN, again, NFL Insider, that is definitely something that all teams think about. So the reason I bring that up is, the Raiders have been rumored to want a day 2 pick for Jacoby. And, I'm sure that teams are looking at that thinking, no, we don't want to give up a day 2 pick. That's either a round 2 or round 3. We'd rather give up a round 4 or round 5. Well, if the Raiders feel like, hey, man, we're kind of backed into a corner, we're going to lose him for nothing, they might at the last second, at the 11th hour, decide, okay, we'll trade him for that 4th round pick just so they get something. Now, I'm hoping that they don't trade him at all. I'm actually hoping somehow they come to their senses and they all come together and they can sign him to a contract extension, but that's just me. I'm not saying that they're going to do that. I would like to see him around for the long haul. I think someone with the kind of leadership and the way that he's acted. And has he been 100% at the top of his game? No, but there's a lot of factors that play into that. I think that he'd be a real asset to this team. But that's just me, right? So we'll see what happens moving forward, but that could be a reason. And there's other names that are being floated out there. Obviously, he's the one that's been talked about the most, but there's rumors about Tyree Wilson. There's rumors about Malcolm Coons. Obviously, there's been rumors about JPJ. Don't know if the Raiders are going to be active at all. As Lincoln Kennedy said on the Raiders Squad Show on Monday, the Raiders they're not really in that position to be able to trade players off because they don't have enough talent. And when we talked to head coach Pete Carroll on Monday, Vinny Bonsignore asked him, is there any chance that he would take a ding this year knowing that they're going to help build for the future? Basically, trading off a player that's really good right now to get some draft capital in return to go ahead and build this team. And he said, I never think like that. I'm never thinking about that. I'm trying to win right now. So, that didn't sound like head coach Pete Carroll was going to be signing off on trading any kind of veteran away that, may get him some draft capital in return, but it may affect them winning or losing the game this year. So the thing about it is we'll know by this afternoon, right? And right now, depending on what time you're listening to this, we might already know. There might already be the report out that Jacoby got traded, or he's not getting traded, or someone else has got traded, or they're not getting traded, right? I know Jerry Jones has floated out the idea that he's got a trade he can make. Who knows what that is? The Cowboys lost on Monday Night Football. He said that loss does not affect the trade that he could make or not. I just think it's Jerry doing a lot of talking, but we'll see, right? Again, 4 p.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Pacific time. Trades must be into the league office to become official. So not a whole lot of time to wait to find out if the Raiders make a move. But regardless of if they make a move or not, what do they need to do for this team, for this organization? They had a good fight on Sunday against the Jaguars, came up a little bit short. What is the reality of this team? Kirk Morrison, longtime NFL linebacker, Raider linebacker, and a current member of the broadcast team, will tell you coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about one of the great sponsors here on the show, and that is BILT. Nobody likes paying rent, but if you must, you might as well get something for it, right? That's where BILT comes in. BILT is changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards that you can actually use. When you pay rent through BILT, you earn flexible points that can be redeemed towards hundreds of hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and a whole lot more. But BILT isn't just about rent. It's about rewarding you around your entire neighborhood. Your rent will finally work for you. You're earning points every month on something that you already have to pay. So if you're grabbing food at any of your favorite local restaurants or heading into the gym, you're still earning rewards. BILT has made everyday life more rewarding, from your neighborhood to your travel plans. So right now, turn your rent into rewards and start earning points around your neighborhood by going to joinbilt.com/LockedOnNFL. That's join, joinbilt.com/LockedOnNFL. Make sure you use that link so they know that I sent you. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to get into the conversation of what this Raiders team needs to do. That tough loss to the Jaguars on Sunday dropped the team to 2-6 overall and got a quick turnaround with the Denver Broncos, who, oh, by the way, are leading the AFC West right now. So it's going to be a tough game on Thursday. Is it a game they can't win? No, not at all. Is it a game that is going to be tough for them to win? Absolutely. But they got to go in there and put the best foot forward. But I touched on it on Monday's show, what I think that this team still needed as far as players, added talent, and really just having to stick with it and knowing that it's a lot of evaluation going on with players and coaches. Don't want to leave out any of the coaches as well, because definitely coaches are under the microscope as well. But Kirk Morrison, who joins my radio show each and every Monday, does a fantastic job on the broadcast, and then really does a great job of joining my show and breaking it down and making it so everybody understands exactly where he's coming from. I asked him how the Raiders build off their small successes, right? They had a win over the Tennessee Titans. Then they took that crazy L against the Chiefs. Really was a no-show. That was an awful game. And then you saw them have the fight once Brock Bowers got back. You saw how big of a difference maker he is in that Raiders offense. And you saw them, come up just a little bit short, right? Losing 30-29 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So how do they build off those successes moving forward when there's still 9 games left in this regular season? So there's still plenty of time for this team to turn things around, but they got a lot of work to do. Here's Kirk Morrison on what needs to happen.
The Raiders have to continue to see this thing out. They really do. And I know Pete Carroll has said it a couple times, and, hey, I win this many games, and I know what it's going to be. But, I use this comparison, Q, and I don't know if you had a chance to deal. Have you dealt with a contractor before?
Oh, yeah. I had to deal with them a few times.
You know what I'm talking about? But tell me a contractor who's never going to tell you, I won't take that job. A contractor's going to come in and be like, oh, yeah, I can do this. Yeah, you know I do this. I do this. Oh, yeah, I see what it looks like, yeah. And then all of a sudden that contractor get in there and start tearing some walls out and start looking, and all of a sudden they're like, whoa. Yeah, I've done a lot of work before, but now I'm starting to see that this may have a lot more work than I expected. I didn't see what was behind the walls, and I think, honestly, I feel that's what Pete Carroll's kind of going through right now, is that he came in as a contractor like, oh, yeah, I can fix this. There's no problem. I've got this. I know how to do it. And then all of a sudden you get in there and you start to tear those walls out, and you start saying, wow, we may need to do some more plumbing around here. We may need to, you know what, we may have to evac the whole house. You know what I mean? We got a little asbestos over here. We got a little bit over, like, everything that you thought you can go in and do, you have to change it around, and then you lose some guys to injuries. The quarterback has been sort of up and down. I mean, Geno was having a great game, and then first play out of halftime, it's an interception, right? That changed the game yesterday. So, I mean, it's you have to build on it. The only way is go through the hard times right now. This is a very difficult time. And I know fans don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I'm an analyst and a fan. So it's like I'm talking to myself and I'm mad at myself at the same time. Like, how do you do that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm telling myself to calm down, Kirk, but how you're the analyst. Right. You got to analyze. But then you also have the fan inside of you, which, you know, right now this team has potential, but they have not reached that potential. They haven't played a 60-minute football game yet, or even a 70-minute football game that you say, man, the Raiders did a nice job. It's just little things, cute little things.
Yep.
You know, I could go on and on. I mean, they got into 14 personnel yesterday, right? One back, 4 tight ends. Remember, Alex Kappa came in as that 4th tight end, so it's called 14T. And Alex Kappa jumps off sides. How'd you jump off sides, big dog?
Right.
Stay on side. You know, it's the little mistakes that you make within a game, and you never know what's going to lead to a game. Like the decisive part of a football game. Daniel Carlson has been lights out for years. You can't miss extra points. That's you can't do that. That changed the tide of the game early on. Okay, and now you feel like you're playing catch-up the rest of the way.
I thought him breaking it down and talking about a contractor and, yeah, I can do this job, no problem. And I think that everybody's probably dealt with that before. That's why it makes it so relatable, right? I even thought about taking your car to the mechanic, right? How many times have you taken your car to the mechanic thinking that, oh, I just need my rotors done or my brake pads done, and they're like, oh no, you need your rotors, you need this, you need the rotation. Oh, by the way, your tires are this, and then all of a sudden your job that you thought was going to only cost you a couple $100 ends up costing you $1,000 or whatever the case may be, right? So I thought that was a great way for him to put it, and I could see that being the case. That Pete Carroll looked at this situation because, look, remember back in Indianapolis at the scouting combine, yeah, the offensive line is good, right? We saw we kind of like what the offensive line is looking at. They went out and got, Geno Smith and brought him in, and he said the whole time, oh, we're going to win a lot of games. I'm excited about that. And then multiple times he's also said he's surprised they're not farther along than they are. So to me, what Kirk Morrison said about, the contractor, and once they got in there behind the wall, started to see everything that they really need. And, oh, man, there's some damage here. There's some damage here. Oh, we got to work here. Oh, man, that's actually more back there than I thought, right? I can actually see that playing out. And it really goes right in with what I said on Monday about what the Raiders need. And it's going to take, I think, a couple drafts to really get it done. And that's successful drafts. It's not just drafts and saying, all right, 2 drafts are in the books. Now they're going to be ready to compete with the best in the AFC West. No, they've got to get blue chip players. Offensive lineman, blue chip. Defensive lineman, blue chip. Cornerback, blue chip. And a franchise quarterback, obviously. But the cornerback, I look at that. That's so needy, right? There's not a cornerback, and the Raiders haven't had one on this team in a while that teams feared. And I know Jack Jones, he had production. He was able to, take the ball away, and once he got the ball in his hands, take it to the house. But every team knew that he would also, have his eyes in the backfield so much, and he would try to gamble so much that a lot of times he'd get burned. They haven't had a guy that's a true lockdown corner. They haven't had a Nnamdi. They haven't had a Charles Woodson. They haven't had a guy like that. And I get it. Seawood's a Hall of Famer, and Nnamdi was really sticking good. Once he figured it out, he was really good. They haven't had a guy like that. They haven't had a true alpha across from Max Crosby either. It's been the Max Crosby show. Multiple guys have tried, but they haven't been that guy yet, right? Tyree Wilson, no. Chandler Jones, no. Christian Wilkins, no. Adam Butler, he's trying, but I mean, he hasn't succeeded yet, right? Jonah Laulu, still young in the game, right? There's been no Malcolm Kuntz, only for a quick minute at the end of 2023. Haven't seen it consistently, right? Offensive lineman. JPJ, I think, is their best offensive lineman. Colton Miller's out. JPJ has that nasty. He has the identity of what an offensive lineman should be, but he's sitting there at the right guard spot and hasn't been super consistent. And obviously the coaching staff hasn't been on the same page with him throughout the course of, the season or since they've been with the team. So there's a lot to be desired. They need another, mauler along that offensive line, right? And you can even say a linebacker, right? A sideline to sideline. They need a difference maker on every level. Right now they've got 3 difference makers that we know for sure. Brock Bowers, Ashton Genty, and Max Crosby. And that's what they have. They're going to need more to get the job done. So I think what Kirk was saying was spot on, and just kind of wanted to bring that to the table and reiterate what we were talking about on Monday. Most importantly, what they really need is everyone's got to be on the same page. And I'm not 100% sure that they're on the same page right now. And I'm talking about John Spytek. I'm talking about Pete Carroll. I'm talking about Chip Kelly. I'm talking about Patrick Graham. I'm talking about all the powers that be, right? Regardless of how much Tom Brady is involved in this team, I don't think that everyone is seeing eye to eye. Now, this is just my gut feeling. This is nothing more than that, right? This is no reporting. I hate that I always have to emphasize that, but we all know what I'm going to say next. There's some website that's going to quote what I'm saying and say, oh, Raider Nation Radio's said this, right? It's just my gut feeling. We're just spitballing here. I just don't think that everyone's on the same page with what they're trying to get accomplished right now, right? It's just when it comes to even Chip Kelly and the offense, it's like I feel like Pete wants to do one thing and Chip's doing another. Again, that's just from the naked eye. Anyone could say that. Anyone could feel that way. And if you don't feel that way, that's okay too. I just watching the games, observing the games, hearing what Pete Carroll says, hearing what Chip Kelly says, and then seeing what the actual offensive game plan looks like, just doesn't look like everyone's on the same page. And, I could say that for Patrick Graham. Is Patrick Graham and Chip Kelly, Patrick Graham and Pete Carroll on the same page as far as what they're supposed to be running defensively? Because to me, there still seems to be a lot of holes in the defense where wide receivers just sit down and are wide open and get big chunk yardage, right? So is everyone on the same page there, right? There's not a bunch of young guys playing right now. They're sprinkling in guys here and there. Darian Porter got some burn, obviously, on Sunday, got the start. McCollum got plenty of burn as well, right? But it's just not the full meal deal. So I'm trying to, still sit back and watch and observe how this thing is all put together. But to be able to build on this team and stick with it, like Kirk Morrison said, everyone's got to be on the same page, and everyone's got to be, as I always say, rowing in the right direction, in the same direction. One band, one sound. But that's what I got for you for segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Coming up, segment number 3, we'll hear from you. Your calls and texts, 707-654-4693. That's coming up next. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is FanDuel. And we know the NBA season's back. There's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel. It's the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Don't know if you were watching the Bucks game on Monday night, but Giannis had a nice little game winner, a little bucket at the end, had 33 points and 13 rebounds to lead Milwaukee to a victory. Now, maybe you were feeling good about the Greek Freak and said, I'm going to put a little something on him. It keeps every single game exciting, especially when it gets down to the wire, and your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com, sign up, play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and text straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Start off with a call from yours truly in PA, calling to react to the game, what he saw, and has a pretty positive outlook on the team and this season. Here's yours truly in PA.
Hey, Q, yours truly here in PA. And we didn't win, but you know what? That was the best loss we've had all year so far. We stayed competitive. We fixed our mistakes in the second half. And you know what? The game was interesting and it was fun. We got Brock Bowers going, as Jesse started going. When the ground game wasn't going, Chip Kelly finally figured out how to get the pass game going. And you know what? The missing piece was Brock Bowers, man, because, wow. That guy had a game, had a welcome back game. Yeah, I am very, very impressed with how we bounced back in the first half. It looked better. Gino was looking better. Everything was just looking better. And I wanted to say this earlier. I just couldn't find a way to say it. But when Chip Kelly was with Ohio State, it took him a few weeks to get the ball going. Because if you don't remember, Ohio State's offense wasn't that great last year. And then once it started clicking, once people started getting it, you know, they're putting up 40, 50 points on playoff caliber teams, you know, after that loss to Michigan. So all in all, I think we just need to stay patient. I feel like all the pieces are there. I don't think Gino's the answer. I think we need to put somebody else in a quarterback to get us over that, you know, get that extra edge. But, you know, after seeing how we played yesterday and the Jaguars are a competitive team, I feel like things are getting better. You know, I feel like we're going to have the type of season that the Lions had where they started like 1-7 and they ended up being 8 or 9-8 or something like that, taking the Packers out of the playoffs. Let me know what you think, Q. All right? Yours truly out. Go Raiders.
Yours truly. Thanks for the call. Appreciate you. And, yeah, it was definitely entertaining, right? That's a good thing. The Raiders fought back. They ultimately lost the game. I mean, early in the game, it wasn't that entertaining. It just seemed like the Raiders or the Jaguars couldn't get into the end zone. But, man, that fourth quarter, that was a flurry of points, and even in overtime, right? 17 for the Jags in the fourth quarter, 14 for the Raiders, 7 for the Jags in overtime, and 6 for the Raiders in overtime. There was a lot of scoring in the end of the game as opposed to even in the first half. That 68-yard field goal the Jags hit right before halftime, that was a big one for them as well. But, yeah, entertaining. The Raiders just need to find a way to finish. I still don't think they ran the ball enough for some reason. Again, going back to everyone being on the same page, Chip just, seems like he refuses to fully commit to the run. Having Brock back is obviously huge. He is a game changer. He's one of those guys across the National Football League. When he's in there, he makes so much difference, and we all saw it up close and personal on Sunday. Thanks for the call. Definitely appreciate you. Got a text from Matt D in St. Louis. It says, Q, Matt D. Ice from St. Louis. In all honesty, this was a solid game overall for the Silver and Black. They probably should have fed Genty more, but Bowers being back made up for it. To me, it really felt like the threat of Genty forced them to leave Brock open. 3 touchdowns and 120-plus yards is incredible. If there was any doubt before, this game killed it. He's the best tight end in the NFL. Gino could have some better looks, but aside from the pick, overall looks serviceable. Absolutely blew the play call at the end to go for 2. What good does tie for us at this point? If we win, it's awesome. If we lose, it's a better draft pick. This was the first week of the season besides week 1 where I felt that Coach Carroll made really good decisions at pretty much every stage of the game. Even though they lost, this should be a huge momentum builder for Thursday night. Let's go Raiders. Beat the Donkeys. Just win, baby. That's Matt D. Ice in St. Louis. And, yeah, the go for 2 was a no-brainer, right? I mean, there's no doubt about it. There's no reason to go for the tie. Maybe if you were 5-2 overall, right, then maybe go for the tie. But you're 2-5 at that stage of the game. Go for the win. Right, everyone would have crucified Pete Carroll if he had gone for the tie. There's no reason for that, and the play worked. Right, I mean there was multiple guys open, just couldn't get the ball over the defender's hand. Some of that was Geno Smith double clutching. Some of that was Dylan Parham not really blocking effectively. And I don't know if Geno didn't trust what he saw, but you study long, you study wrong. That's what you say, right? And so that ended up and resulted in an incompletion, a batted ball. Raiders lose the game. But overall, man, they were right there. They gave themselves a chance at the end, and you can't be mad at that at all. What you don't want is a embarrassment, a stinker like they had in Kansas City before their bye week. Thanks for the text. Definitely appreciate you. Got a call from Ray in St. George, Utah. He's calling to talk about the evaluation of the players and brings up another area of the team that he thinks needs evaluation as well. Here's Ray in St. George, Utah.
Hey, Q. It's Ray calling out of St. George, Utah. I just wanted to call in regards to, after the bye week, you said that there was a lot of evaluation going on between the players. But I think we're evaluating the wrong people. I think the coaches and staff needs evaluating, not necessarily GM. I know he just got there, and I know the coaches, Coach Pete Carroll just got there. But I just wanted to evaluate, like for example, the play calling on offense. That's kind of questionable, and you gotta ask ourselves, do we really want to move on from Chip Kelly because of his play calling? It's obvious. Week after week, we talk about, week after week, we've been talking about players need to do this, players need to do that. This past week against the Jags, I felt like the Raiders actually played really, really well. And even Geno Smith played really well too. Other than the fact that he threw that interception. But I just wanted to put that out there as like maybe the coaching staff needs some evaluation. Maybe that offensive line coach needs evaluating. Maybe the quarterback coach or Chip Kelly. But I just wanted to throw that out there and just say like I don't think it's necessarily the players. It's more of the coaching staff. But I love what you do, Q, you and Ari. You guys take care. This is Ray calling out of St. George, Utah. Bye.
Big Ray, thanks for the call. And yeah, I mean, I've talked about the evaluation of players, but I've talked about the coaches as well. Talked about the coaches earlier in the show, right? I mean, I don't think anyone's exempt from evaluation at this stage, and they shouldn't be, right? And I do believe there's a lot of attention on Chip Kelly right now. Right? All eyes are on Chip Kelly like Tupac. And I'll say, with the way that the defense has been struggling as well, especially I know they're on the field a lot, over 40-something minutes, but, I can say that Patrick Graham, there's probably some attention on him. Right, I think that Pete Carroll will be fine as long as he wants to be fine and still be there. But the coordinators, I could definitely see them, having extra eyeballs and a little bit extra evaluation on them for sure. So yeah, definitely nobody's exempt from evaluation. Thanks so much for that, Ray. Definitely appreciate the call. Got a text from LA Raider Steve, and we'll close out with this. Hey Q, it's with a heavy heart I'm here to say goodbye to Raider Nation. I've been a fan since '87. I've seen a few ups and a ton of downs. I lasted through the dark times, the Jamarcus Russell years. I love Gruden's first tenure. I thought Derek was going to take us to the promised land. I spent too much money, time, and arguments with the wife to stay home to watch Raider games instead of going out. For what? The crap they've been feeding us for years. The Raiders are in a huge hole again, with team needs of a quarterback, offensive lineman, defensive lineman, DB, and linebackers. Maybe a new DC and OC as well. I don't have it in me anymore to go through another rebuild. So for the last time, this is LA Raider Steve saying, Raiders. That's LA Raider Steve on the text saying goodbye. Farewell, Raider Nation. Farewell, Raiders. He just doesn't have it anymore. I respect it. I respect it if that's your decision. As I tell people all the time, people hit me up all the time, Q, I can't listen to the show anymore. All right. Like I always tell you, don't have to tell me that. Just don't listen. That's a you thing, right? I mean, hey, I'm not mad. I'm going to be here regardless, right? I'm going to be here doing the show each and every day with a smile on my face and happy that I get the opportunity to do this. The Raiders are going to go out there and they're going to play regardless, right? Every week they're going to go out there and play. They're going to train. They're going to do what they do. But I get it. If it's not in you anymore, you ain't got it, that's okay. Maybe it's also a little bit of reaction, and by Thursday when they get ready to take the field against Denver, you're right there on the couch watching, right? And again, I don't know what you're going to do moving forward, but I get it, right? And it could be exhausting at times. I don't take it personal like I used to. I used to really take the losses really, really tough, but I realize that it's football. It's not real life that's going to affect me as far, or shouldn't be real life where it affects me, where it affects home or, stuff like that, people around me. I don't want that to be the case. So I've learned to not be that guy. But, I still obviously well invested in what the Raiders have going on and want them, just like you and everyone else, to win. But at the end of the day, it's a game. That's their job. And, we get to sit back and watch and enjoy. And, I'm blessed that I get the opportunity to cover it. And that's my job as well. So I get it. If you come back, that's cool. I don't think the Raider Nation is going to be upset at you. But, it is what it is, my man. So thanks for the text. Hopefully we hear from you at some point. And, and if you spend some time with the wife on Sundays instead of watching the game, hopefully you guys have a really good time. Maybe check out a couple movies or so. Just saying, throwing it out there. So thanks so much for the text. Appreciate you, my man. Got a call from Raider Warrior in Iowa. Got a text from Tim in Oregon. We'll get to those tomorrow. We'll also have more news and notes. We'll know the results of the trade deadline for sure. Did the Raiders make a move? Did they not make a move? And, of course, we'll have plenty of conversation as well. So we got a lot to get to. And, of course, the game is coming up on Thursday, Week 10 versus the Denver Broncos. So until tomorrow, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.